Hello everybody, welcome back to the shop. Surprisingly, there was more comments than I was expecting about showing how to do this whole cam thing. So or I should say CAD CAM. CAD's which actually draw the parts in. CAM is computer aided manufacturing, where it actually develops your G code for your CNC router, your milling machine, your lathe, water jet, plasma cutter, whatever you're using to use. There's actually 3 software things that you need in order to cut out a part. You need your CAM package or your CAD package or software, which actually, like I said, that's what you draw your part in. You can either use a 2D CAD like AutoCAD or 3-dimensional like SolidWorks or Rhino or SketchUp. I think has DXF and stuff. Pretty much anything that'll output a DXF, a drawing, a step file, and pretty much all the CAD stuff out on the market nowadays is all pretty similar on what files they can output and import and all that stuff. Bobcat even has a thing. So you got your CAD software, and then you have your CAM software, which you've got things like, I think Rhino's got a thing now, SolidWorks, I think they may even have a CAM's package. There's Bobcat CAM, which is what I'm currently using. There's just a whole bunch of stuff. They've all got their benefits and their minuses. It depends, and unfortunately most of it's not cheap. Like I said, I'm using Bobcat CAM version 21. I got it off eBay for about 150 bucks shipped to my door, and that was registered, licensed, and everything. It was a brand new software copy. It wasn't a used copy. So it was the best bang for the buck that I could have. Plus, another reason I chose version 21 instead of a newer version 26. I could have got, I think it was 24 or 26 for about twice the price, which has a little bit easier usability from what I've seen on videos of it. But I have a friend who's local who also uses Bobcat version 21. So by sticking with the same software he uses, he's actually been able to come over here and show me how to do stuff. The last video I showed you guys kind of this stuff, and it was really a quick and dirty thing, and honestly, to show you guys the ins and outs of how you cut a simple part is fairly easy to do in a video, but when it starts getting into complex stuff, I mean, sometimes you'll sit here and play around with it for an hour or 2 hours or who knows how long. At least I do, because like I said, haven't really done a whole lot of CAM stuff until now as far as doing the CNC router stuff. So I mean, it's a learning process that you really need to have somebody who knows what they're doing local, or somebody that you can call upon to ask questions, that uses the software and is familiar with what the software you're using. So anyway, yesterday I was showing you guys cutting out the spoiler panels for the wings. I just got done cutting all of the spoiler hinges and the flap control arms, and I'll show you those things here in a moment. But when I was cutting them out, I was literally going at the last little bit of material I've got as far as 16th inch G10. So a couple of them didn't come out very well, and those are the ones that were right on the edges, so I need to cut a couple extras out. So what I will do is I'm gonna come up here in under the open folder thing. You know, it's just a standard open whatchamahoosit, a little open symbol that you would expect to see. And I'm gonna open up the file, and these are basically the parts that I was wanting to cut out. I'm gonna go around and cut. You see there's some ghost files in here. You click on that, it shows a whole lot of red stuff. What these are actually, that's actually all your CAM stuff. So I'm gonna go through and delete the vast majority of that stuff. That way it doesn't cause me headaches here in the long run. Again, if you're using a brand new file, you won't have to do this this step, so just kind of bear with me for a moment. Alright, well, I missed one apparently. There we go. Bear with me, guys. like I said, I'm still kind of not the best teacher for this. I'm still kind of learning it myself. And these little simple parts like this, like I said, are simple because they're just basically a 2D cut. You're not trying to cut like a pocket or anything. All right, there we go. Now we're down to our bare stuff. So I'm just going to save that to do all that. This flap control arm I don't need, so I'm just going to remove that. I don't need this part, so that can come out. And I've got some room, so I'm going to leave those parts there, but I'm going to cut a couple of these out. So I'm just going to left click over here, open the box up to highlight that part. Up here you have what they call change. So under the change menu you have mirror, rotate, translate, reorganize. What I want to do is I want to translate this part, which basically translate, you're just going to move it from this position to this position. But under the options you can also make a copy of it. So I'm going to click make a copy, and I want one copy, and I'm just going to click on drag, and you see it gives you the original part, and then you have your I call it a ghost part for the moment because it's just kind of hovering in space. So put that where you want it, click, and now you have your part, the original part, the part you just wanted, and then you have another ghost part. So we can sit there and take this one, and we'll cut out 4 of these just for some extra little extra parts to have there. And I'm going to highlight this one. I'm going to do the same thing as change and translate, but I'm going to unmark or uncheck make a copy, and then drag it, and then place it right here so they're kind of all in line. And then these 2 parts here, same thing. I'm just going to highlight both boxes, change, translate, drag. I'm just going to raise them up a bit, hit the escape button, and then click on there so it deselects everything. Alright, so now we've got basically our parts just where the parts we want where we want them. And we got them in the upper right hand corner of the 0x 0y. That way when we zero our router or whatever, it'll cut this direction into the center of our cutting area. Alright, now what I like to do is I like to come up here to dimensions and select other dimension. And you see it gives you a little X with a 1, and as you move it around you'll see a little star, a little pink star kind of pick up. So I'm going to pick this bottom point here on this one, and then to the point here on that one, which is going to be a little, it's going to make things difficult. What I want to do is I want to make sure that we have about 1/8 of an inch of clearance between the bottom of these parts. And the reason why I say about 1/8 of an inch clearance is because 16th inch bit, by the time you route around this way and you route around this way, that 16th of an inch are going to be pretty close to cutting out of each other. So you want them close but not too close. That way you're not, when you go to cut this part out, you don't actually end up cutting into this one and vice versa. So on those will be good. I would like just a little bit more clearance, so I'm going to highlight those, come back up here to change once again, then translate. But at this point in time, instead of saying drag, what I want to do is I'm going to use the translation method up here, and it gives you little boxes that you can select in. We're going to do by coordinates. 3D is not checked. See, if you click 3D, it actually allows you to vary its height in the Z-axis, but we don't want to do that. What we want to do is we just want to move it in the Y-axis, which you can see up here which direction Y is. I'm going to move it another 10/1000ths of an inch, and you see it just barely moves it a little bit. And you can come up here and just to show you what it does, we'll move it a full inch, see how far it goes up there. We'll undo that, undo the other one, and then we'll just like I said, we'll just translate that 1/10 of an inch. And then this one up here, we'll also translate that one. We'll do a full 3/16 of an inch. So there we go. Now we got those parts in. Let's do 2 extra ones of those just because we can. Do make a copy, 3D, or not 3D, not 3D. And same thing, I want to translate that. We'll say 3/8 of an inch. And there's our next one. Dimension between the two to make sure that our Clearances are good, 0.18, so we're good there. And delete that, and there we go. Now we have it set up to where we have 4 spoiler side of the hinges and 4 wing side of the hinges to cut out. And this is essentially what we're going to be, what we're going to do and how we're going to cut it. So now that we've got this line laid out how we want it, we'll come up here to the insert an NC object into the drawing. NC's numerical control object, or that's your CAM. This is a CAM portion of the Bobcat CAM version 21. Click that. We want our, under NC machine setup, you'll have a bunch of things in here. These are post processors. You want to download the Mach 3 mil post processor off Bobcat's website in this case, and then select Mach 3 mil, and then click on OK, and it opens up the CAM side of Bobcat CAM. So we'll hit the little magnifying glass of the A, which gives it your actual size. It just kind of fills it up, and away we go. Alright, in the CAM side over here, what you want to do is you want to select Machine menu, and then come down to Profile. And then you see, you do that, nothing happens. Down here in the bottom left corner that you can't really see, but where my finger's at, it says Cutter Compensation, Cut, Pick Line or Arc. So I want you to pick a point on what you want to cut. In this case, I want to start cutting all these little holes out in the middle, because once you cut out the profile of it, trying to cut these holes out is going to be impossible. So we're just going to select this circle, click on once, it says determine direction of chain, and depending on the part, you can actually move your mouse around. It'll actually tell you which the arrow will kind of change. So I'm just going to click again. Then it says pick end of change or F3 or whatever. So I just click a third time. This little dialog box pops up saying, do you want to pick your own lead in or out point? I always pick no. You can actually pick it to where it'll go in wherever you want to, but I'm not worried about that at this point. So we'll say no, and then it brings up this tool depth setting pop-up dialog box. Rapid plane. That is how high above the material that the machine will move up before it starts moving to the next point that it's going to cut. So like in the case of these holes, it's not going to start at 0 and then move across, because it'll sit there and it'll leave a little scuff mark across the top of your material. So what it's going to do is going to go from 0, it's going to come up to the rapid point of 1/8 of an inch above whatever you set as the material top, whether it's 0 or +2.5, and I'll get into that here in a moment. But it'll move up to 1/8 of an inch to the rapid point, it'll come across, it'll drop down to your cutting depth, and it'll do the circle, it'll come back up to the rapid plane, move to the next point, drop back down cutting to the cutting depth, and do the circle. Your material top, depending on the part you're cutting, dictates what you put here. If you're doing a simple two-dimensional part like what we're doing here, you're going to use the top of your material is actually going to be 0. Again, the top of the material you're going to cut is going to be 0. If you're doing a pocketed two-dimensional cut, something like these flap hinges, or these flap hinge support standoffs, whatever you want to call them, instead of the top of the material being 0, the bottom of the material is 0. So your material top is actually going to be the thickness of your material. So if you're using 1/8 inch material, it's going to be plus 0.125 and whatnot. And then your cutting depth in the case of this part would be 0, because you're only going to want to come down to the bottom, because your exterior surface is going to be 0 and you don't want to go below that. These two-dimensional parts, your cutting depth is actually going to be minus the thickness of your material. So if you're doing a 1/8 of an inch, it'll be minus 0.125. If you're doing 1/16, minus 0.0625, whatever. Like I said, there's a whole lot of information to put this on a video. Once you see it a couple of times, it actually, if you're computer savvy, you can kind of fumble your way through some of these two-dimensional cuts fairly easily. So that's the tool position Z, and then automatic roughing, that's for really thick material. If you only want to cut a 1/16 of an inch or an 1/8 of an inch or whatever out at a time. And then your feed rates, normal, plunge, all that good stuff. I'm going to actually change the feed rates. I'm going to drop them down a little bit to 20 inches a minute on each. So now that we've got all this stuff filled out, before you click next, you need to come over here into your CAD portion of it, and you need to go through and individually click the parts you want to cut out first. So the first thing I want to do is I want to cut these holes out. So I'll hold the shift button down, and what that does, it allows me to select an entire entity and multiple entities at the same time. So we'll sit there and shift left click on the mouse, and you see it gives you this little highlighted circle, and then it gives you an arrow. In this case, the arrow is pointing up, saying that the tool is going to move up, down, around, and back around. So when you select all these entities that you're going to cut, it's going to cut them in the order you click them in. And you also want to make sure the arrows are all pointing the same direction. I'll explain why you want them pointing the same direction here momentarily. So I'm just going to go through and I'm going to click these as you see. I try and think about it a little logically to what would be the quickest to where it doesn't have to move the machine around a lot. So I'll start from the bottom left, work my way up to the top, move over to the right, then work my way down, and then just kind of alternate like that. Alright, so now I have all our circles or our holes cut out or selected. So now we'll come back to the tool depth setting box, we'll click next, and here it shows you this is all the stuff we're going to cut out in this operation. So your tool diameter, you want to put what the diameter of your bit is. In my case, it's 1/16 of an inch. Tool compensation, we're going to leave it automatic. And our compensation direction, the comment about leaving all of the arrows pointing the same direction when you select this stuff is, I'll zoom you in right here to where it's going to show this. And what you can see is you have your actual hole. The black is what your part actually, what you actually want your part to be. The red is the center line of the cutter. So if you see here, when you have all your arrows pointing direction, it all puts all of the red cutter center lines on the outside of it. But if you do that, your hole is going to be bigger. It's going to be bigger by 1/16 of an inch because you've got a 32nd on this side and a 32nd on this side that's cutting out. So if you want an 1/8 inch hole, it's actually going to end up 1/4 inch because now you're adding 1/8 of an inch of cutting width on either side. So over in the compensation direction, right here, all you have to do is simply click left or right. In this case, we have left selected, which we know we don't want because it's going to give us the wrong side hole. So when I sit here and click right, you'll see all those little red lines move to the inside of the hole, which is what we want because we want those holes to be the correct dimension. So now we've got that, and then the lead in, lead out, I just do none. I just let it do a straight plunge. The material is, G10's fairly easy to cut with these 1/16 inch 4-flute end mills. So it's no big deal to try and do like an angled line or a circular cut to where it slowly ramps into the material. If you're doing aluminum or something, you want to do probably a circle or an angled approach. So now we've got all this stuff selected. We'll press enter for OK. And what you see is it brings up over here in your cam side, it brings up all of your coding for these parts, or at least for that operation. And that's basically what G-code looks like. Simple, but not so simple. Alright, so I'll put our cursor back to the bottom over here. And you're probably like, well, that's all fine and dandy, Thomas, but now you just got holes. What about the rest of it? Well, you just do the same thing again. Zoom y'all back out. Come up here on your CAM package, go under the machine toolbar or the selection, and again select profile, and just select the point. Click 3 times until you get that depth setting menu popping back up. Everything is going to stay the same compared to what you just did for the hole, so you really don't have to mess with this a second time around unless you're doing some weird 2-dimensional pocketing or a 3-dimensional cut. So since we don't need to worry about that, we'll just click on into our CAD side, and the same thing, we'll just sit here and hold the shift button down and left click on the outline of what we want to cut out. And if you get the arrows in the wrong direction, like I'll show you here, if you'll notice on this one, the arrows here are showing that's doing a clockwise rotation, while this one's doing a counterclockwise rotation. So just unclick the line, and you'll notice if I click on this end of the line, it does clockwise, If I click on this side of the line, it does counterclockwise. So depending on where you click on the line dictates what direction the cut's going to be. That way, that's one of the things that kind of threw me off for a while. And on these bigger parts that have straight lines, it's fairly easy. Though when you start getting the small parts with lots of radiuses that are really tiny, it starts to get a little difficult. Or if you have a part that uses splines to build up like a wing rib outline, those can get kind of awkward at times. So now we've got all of our profile cuts cut out or selected. So we'll come back here to the tool depth setting. We'll just hit next. And the same thing. If we do a right offset, you notice all of the red profile center lines for the tool are on the inside. We don't want that because then our part's going to be undersized. So just click left and you see it moves them right back to the outside. And we'll come back out again. And once again we'll hit OK. And now you can see our cam side updates with all of our stuff. And this is one of the, typically it goes fairly well with Bobcat version 21. But there are these little things that have been dubbed crop circles that are just a major pain in the butt, to put it lightly. I'll show you what those are here momentarily. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go ahead and save this as some more parts. Save that, and then I'm gonna bring up Mach 3, which is the program. This is a third part of the program. So you got the CAD program, the CAM program, and then you have your, in this case, Mach 3 for actually running your CNC router. So that G code we just created, I'm gonna load that. So I'm gonna click on load G code. Then I'm gonna open the 4 spoiler hinge parts file we just made. And then over here in the little box, it shows you a graphical display of what you're looking for. Oops, zoomed in just a little bit too far. So you can see everything looks pretty good, but you see these little pink circles? These are what I'm talking about as what I'm referring to are crop circles. Now these things are just a major pain in the butt because you'll see that the pink comes in, this is a cutting part, then it does a 360, and then it comes back and it starts cutting, and it does that, and it's cutting some more, and then it does another 360, and that's it. So if you have a hole here that's about the size for 440, and then you do this hole here, what it's going to do is it's going to cut into that hole for that 440 bolt, and then you're going to be all messed up, and the parts are going to be worthless. So what I've come to learn with Bobcat version 21 is you need anytime you've got a lot of arcs or your part use splines, you need to load it into Bobcat, and you need to look in this graphical display and make sure that you don't have any crop circles, because if you do, you're going to ruin your part. At least if it's a small part. If it's a larger part, it's not that big of a deal, and I'll show you why it's not that big of a deal on larger parts. Some of for all of my wing rib portions on the F-14 stuff, wing structure, I use splines to draw it up in SolidWorks just because it's easy. You can upload a picture and you can just sit there and make a spline and get the nice airfoil. Well, you see the little notches at the bottom? That's what the crop circles did in this case. But this is one of the points where I say crop circles are actually kind of a good thing. And why are they a good thing in this case? Well, they tell you that's the bottom of the wing rib. I didn't do that on purpose, I just got lucky. So, and that's where I kind of learned that crop circles are a major pain in the butt. Alright. So now you're probably wondering, well, how in the world do you get rid of these crop circles so you don't ruin these little parts? Well, here in Mach 3 you want to close the G code, so just click the close G code, and then come back over here to your CAM package. And then you also got the graphical display as well over here on the right. Well, let me zoom in a little bit so I can try and show you guys a little bit of both. And when we sit here and we select this number 225 in our CAM package, you can see it brings up this little this arrow. Well, the arrow represents where your tool is going to be when it's done. In this case, it's going to be at this point, and it's going to be at X 2.2808Y, blah, blah, blah. And then it's going to be 0.125 inches. So it's going to be at your rapid position above your material, because that's where it stopped. Then it rises above your material and it waits for you to go, okay, what's up? All right, so if we sit here and we move just using our arrow keys, you can actually move your the cursor in your G code up through, and you'll see the tool kind of move through. Well, eventually you'll get to a point to where you'll watch it and you'll be like, okay, look, it's moving pretty steady, but then all of a sudden you have 3 keystrokes and it doesn't move at all. Well, that's where basically a crop circle comes in. If you see that, it's kind of like, okay, why did it not move as it moved through 3 lines of code or 2 lines of code? If you look over here in the cam side, you'll see this number 220 line says I 0.0135, J 0.028. Well, that's a crop circle. How do I know? I just do. It took me ruining about, I don't know, $20 of material to figure out what the heck was causing these crop circles. And I have come to find out, if you ever see any code that has this I0 whatever, J0, it doesn't matter if the numbers are 10135 or whatever. If it has just I0 and a J0, it's a crop circle. The only time that's not true is when you see something like up here on line 217. It says X something, Y something, I0, or it says I-0 and J0. If you see something like that, it's not a crop circle. Or if you see an I0, J-0, it's not a crop circle. It's just when you see it where it says I0.0 something and J0.0 something, that's a crop circle. So if you just come over here with your cursor, with your mouse, and you select it, just hit delete, and then delete the gap. And anywhere I see those, I just come through and I'll delete all of those from the code. You'll probably notice that these ones I'm deleting don't have this green lettering in front of them. Occasionally they do. Occasionally they might have a G02 or a G03. It doesn't matter if it has that coding or not. If it does, it's a crop circle. If it doesn't, it's a crop circle. As long as there's no X or Y information in front of the I0, J0, it's a crop circle. So you just have to kind of go through the code and delete it. And it is a little frustrating that you have to do this, but that's kind of part of the job. So I'm just going to come through and just run through all of these lines of code, and I'm going to delete those I0, J0s. And as I delete these, it throws a numbering off of the G coding, so you'll have to renumber it, and I'll show you how to do that momentarily. And here's another crop circle right here, and you see it says number 112, G02, I-0 something something something. That actually is not a crop circle, because what you'll see is this is actually pointing at the circle here. So it's actually saying that's the circle, and it's just dropping down in, doing a circle, and coming right back out. So in that case, we don't have a crop circle. And we'll just kind of move down through, make sure I didn't miss any here. I think we're good momentarily. Do one more time, because these things will pop up on you when you least expect it. Alright, so I think we're good. So now we'll just come here to the top under Edit, that you can't see because I zoomed in too far. Under the Edit tab, click Edit, and then it has Renumber, or you can do Control R. Renumber, Start Number, Increment 1, Start Text is in, and just hit OK, and it sits there and it renumbers all of your G code for you. So it went from like 228 to 230 something lines of code down to 217. So now we'll just resave this. I'm going to save it as the same name. So I'm going to select the old file, but then I'm going to delete the old file. And the reason why I delete the old file is sometimes you'll save it, you'll and you'll overwrite that file, but it doesn't actually overwrite it. It'll sit there and just bring up the exact same stuff again. So we'll save that, bring back up Mach 3, load that file, and then we'll come back over here to our little graphical display window. And you can see where we had those crop circles here and here, they're gone. And now they're gone over here. And then there's none up here at all either. So we're now basically ready to cut these six or eight parts. Alright, which brings me to my next little thingy. We'll come back to this here momentarily. Zoom you guys all the way. You can see here, I've already got a whole bunch of these things cut out. All of these parts are about 30 minutes of work. And you'll notice I don't have any clamps holding the G10 down. What I actually did is, a lot of people, when you're doing small parts like this, they'll use double-sided carpet tape to stick the material to your spoil board. The problem is, getting that tape off is a pain in the butt. So I didn't like the idea of using tape. But I also didn't want to glue the thing, and I didn't want to use regular tape. And well, what I did is I just took a piece of 1/2 inch MDF. I cut it about 12 by 12, and that just took regular 3M 77 contact spray adhesive, and I sprayed the spoil board surface. Gotta get a drink, I'm talking too much. Let that dry for a few minutes, and then I stuck the material straight to it, and you can see it's on there nice and good. I did not spray the back side of the material, just the spoil board. That way you can kind of get it off semi-easily. You can see actually a couple of the parts have already come off, which I've got floating around here somewhere. Here's the one at the very top that came off just because it didn't, the bit kind of pushed it out of the way. So anyway, now we got this. These parts are all cut out. I just need one or two more of these little things, and I did a couple of these as extra because one didn't get a hole completely through. That one right there, the hole's a little smaller than the rest. So coming over here to our laptop, I'm just going to hit the arrow keys, or jogs your X, Y, Z, or X and Y. Page up, page down does your Z axis. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to jog the tool bit down here to the bottom corner. I'm going to lower the Z bit a little bit so I can make sure I got exactly where I want it. Then I'm going to come over here to Mach 3, and I'm going to select 0X, 0Y, and good to go. And then while I'm jogging and watching the machine, because like I said, I don't have limit switches on this, so if the gantry up here gets all the way to the end, it'll sit there and actually, if your machine's powerful enough, it could destroy your machine. Or you'll end up breaking the little couplers in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to jog the machine over like so, and then coming back over here in the graphic display window, I'm just going to bring it all the way to the edge of where I want the parts, and you'll see the little bright pink line comes up. I'm going to get the big line here, which is actually the location of our bit, right over that pink line. Come back over here and make sure I have enough material, which I do. Then I'm going to do the exact same thing for the Y-axis. Then I'm going to bring the machine up until it hits the bright pink line, then bring it right back. Same thing back over here, make sure there's enough material, which there is, and we're done. Then the go to 0 button, quick go to 0, and we'll watch the machine kind of come across by itself where the point is at where we selected, and our bit should be right on the material, and it's pretty dang close. So let me get the camera back up on the tripod and get it level so y'all aren't all crooked on me. And then over here on Mach 3, I'm just going to I'm going to turn the spindle on, raise the bit up just a little bit, and then I'm just going to hit cycle start on Mach 3. So so the machine will start doing its work. And turn on the shop vac so I don't get the place all dusty. Alright, there we go. We got all that done, so I'm going to turn off the spindle, raise up the bit, and just move the machine out the way. Then I'm going to vacuum out the crevices with all the shavings. So just give me just a second. Alright, so now we got all the crevices vacuumed out, and then you can see we've got our parts nicely cut out. You can see that's why you got to have the clearance. You can see there's just a very small sliver of material there, but there's a pretty big gap there. Here you can see all these parts have pretty big gaps. I could bring most of them closer together, but they're good enough. See these parts, 3 minutes to cut all those. And that was a machine turned down pretty slow. I could actually turn it up a little bit with a sharper bit and cut them faster. I could probably cut those parts out in a minute, minute and a half. All of these parts, including the two that are missing, took right at 30 minutes. And that's an entire set of wing panels. That's both the left and the right. Same with the flap control arms. So CNC stuff is really nice. All these G10 parts for the the flaps, the slats, I mean everything. About an hour of cutting time. So once you get the CAD CAM software and the package all done, this takes no time, and you never have to deal with all this stuff again. You just load up the file, put your material in, cut your parts. Easy, right? Not so much. So anyways, there you go. Not super hard, not super easy. It's the learning curve is all it is. So all right, somebody was asking about the flap standoff thingies, what I was going to do with those. I got the other molds closed up. No, they're not closed up as in ready to pull out. They're just closed up because I'm getting ready to go out of town for a few days. So I wanted to close them up to keep them from warping. But anyways, this is the original wing that I did the layup on, the really heavy 3-pound one. Everywhere you see HB is where I was going to put a hardwood block for the hinges for the flaps. That spar has now been moved forward about 1.5 to 2 inches. So what I'm going to do is those G10 parts get notched and high sawed to this spar, and they get high sawed to the bottom skin as well. So they're going to be kind of part of the entire wing structure. Here you see I got the G10 material for the spoilers on the spoil board and ready for cutting out once I get the CAD files for that done, which I'll work on those CAD files when I'm out of town for work. So anyways, until I get back, y'all have a wonderful new year, and we'll see you back here in the shop. See ya.